Hi guys, it's Caitlin without Sarah. We are still separated because of the quarantine. Today I'm going to be talking about how trying to be perfect as a human, as a Christian, just in life really affected me negatively and really impacted my relationship with God and just my overall happiness. Yeah, there's a really big stereotype of Christians being perfect, and I can understand why that's a thing now because so often we don't share what's going on in our lives, which can drive someone crazy who's going through something hard, and every time you ask someone how they're doing, they're like, I'm doing great. I was trying to make myself a better person, make myself happier, make myself have a better relationship with God by being perfect. If you're struggling with this, I hope that this will provide you some relief. And if you are someone who doesn't really know God but feels like every Christian you meet has just a face on and they're being perfect all the time, I hope this will give you some peace that you do not have to be perfect to know God. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. We love you guys, and we are putting out these videos so that you can find peace and so that you can feel good about your life. So please subscribe. My whole life, I have had a perfectionist tendency inside of me. It's definitely affected a lot of how I've done things. As a kid, I always wanted to have perfect grades, get into the best school. That always followed me no matter what I was doing. I had to be perfect at it. And so now you add God into the mix, right? 2 years ago, I started living my life for Jesus. That first year was awesome. I was making so many life changes, I stopped cursing, I stopped drinking, I stopped doing all these things. When I ran out of the glaringly obvious to pick at, right? The glaringly obvious things that I was doing wrong in my life, I started nitpicking myself. And it became a thing of, in order for me to be happy, in order for God to love me, in order for God to give me the gifts that He's promised, I had to be this perfect person. It got really bad once I joined a ministry outreach group. I'd never been in a whole Christian group like that before, and that's really when it got the worst because I was surrounded by a bunch of college Christians my age who, I love them all to death, but they did not talk about their struggles, and they inadvertently really made me feel like every Christian was perfect. If you accidentally said a curse word in front of them, which I still accidentally say curse words sometimes, and I say, God, I'm sorry. If you were to accidentally do that in front of them, they'd all be like, instead of just, oop, sorry. And all I could think was do these people not struggle with these things at all? I would go to a bar with my friends, an 18 and over bar. I wasn't even drinking, just hanging out. And I would start to feel guilty thinking, what if my Christian friends saw me here? What would they think of me? I shouldn't be here right now, even though I'm not doing anything wrong. And then once I turned 21, I was like, probably shouldn't have that glass of wine just because I'm 21. Jesus drank wine. He didn't get drunk, he drank wine. But the point is, I was crazy nitpicking all of these things, and it really just started to drive me insane, trying to be perfect all the time with every decision that I made. One time, I forgot to put away my equipment at the gym, and I felt so bad about it for an hour, which is not normal. But what was happening was I was seeing God not as who He is, which is graceful, forgiving. I saw Him as just this man looking down from above that's constantly shaking his head and saying not good enough. And that's not what God is. And this was also a time in my life when I started dealing with a lot of anxiety. It was bad. And when I would talk to my Christian friends, I'd be like, hey, how are you doing? They'd be like, oh, it's good. I'm dealing with this, but the Lord is really helping me right now. I felt like I couldn't just be like, hey, I'm dealing with anxiety, this sucks. Every time I felt the need to be I have anxiety, but the Lord's really helping me through it, which He did. But I felt the need to justify what I was going through instead of just accepting yeah, it sucks. I was starting to think to myself, did I do something wrong to get this anxiety? Maybe my faith in God isn't good enough. Maybe I don't read my Bible enough. Maybe I don't pray enough, which is so ridiculous. Nobody should feel that way about anxiety or anything, because that's not what God wants from us. For months, I was going through this constant cycle that was just wearing down on me, where I would just feel guilty about the stupidest things. I would even feel bad about like listening to non-Christian music sometimes. Probably not the best messages, but like God is not this crazy dictator who looks down and says, "Stop doing that." And it's just a song, like it's fine. And then finally, there was this idea of a superhuman me. One day, when I'm a better person, when I have more faith, when I am more perfect, when I do this, I'll be happy. I'll be confident. I would look to other Christian girls and I would say, yeah, I'll be happy like her one day. The Bible says that God gives us joy, right? And so I felt like the reason why I wasn't joyful in my own life was because God was holding out on me. He was waiting till I was perfect to give me that joy and peace. But the truth was, God has already given that to me. But that perfectionist inside of me is robbing it away every time. It wasn't God that was making me so unhappy, so anxious, so frustrated. It was myself and my perfectionist tendencies. One day, it finally hit me. I was relying on myself and myself alone to give me happiness, give me joy, and to even help me find salvation and get to heaven. That's how deeply rooted this issue was. Everything that I wanted in life, I was putting it on me. I did not trust that God would forgive me. I did not trust that what Jesus did by dying on the cross so that I could go to heaven, I did not trust that that was enough for me. I was trying to justify myself as a good person when only Jesus can justify me. Look, this is why we need God. Because this weight of constantly having to be perfect, how could it possibly be lifted if I didn't know that somebody, God, had my back, right? If I didn't know that my future was gonna turn out okay because of God, then of course all the time I'll be trying to get the perfect grades, perfect job, perfect internship. If I didn't know that Jesus died for me when I was imperfect, then how could I trust that I would go to heaven? I couldn't. This weight that falls on you if you are a perfectionist like me can only be lifted by knowing who God is. And you know, I think that if someone had asked me when I was dealing with this, how do you know you're getting to heaven? Like, how do you know? My first answer would have been, well, I did something. I did something because of me, because I'm a good person. That's the wrong answer. And yes, there is a wrong answer. And this is good news for those of you who are struggling with being perfect. When Jesus died on the cross, he did so in the midst of an imperfect, evil world. A world that was committing murder for people that killed him. There is nothing that humanity has ever done to deserve what Jesus did for us. So why, 2,000 something years later, would Jesus change the rules and be like, just kidding, you gotta be perfect? No, that's not the case. By trying to be perfect, you're really doing two things that are really harmful to your joy. One, you are taking matters of your life into your own hands. You don't trust that God has your future. You're trusting that you got your future by all these decisions that you're gonna make now. And do you see now why that is why they say perfectionism is the thief of joy? Because you are constantly trapped under its weight, constantly worried about whether or not you're making the right decision. And you're also doing something else. You are trying to justify yourselves by the work that you've done, by the things that you've done. You are trying to get your way to heaven. That is so horribly incorrect. Faith, our belief in Jesus, that is what gives us salvation. Our works, meaning the Christian things that we do, if you truly have faith, that's just evidence that you actually have faith. So yes, we gotta walk with God because real believers in God walk with God like He's a friend. All it requires is our faith to receive the gift that we've been given of joy, of peace. All it requires is a belief in Jesus. God does not wait for you to be perfect for you to receive like happiness. God does not wait for you to be perfect for Him to reveal your purpose. One, if you're a Christian now and you're struggling with this, please know God's not holding out on you. Your perfectionism is what is stealing your joy, not God. And if you're not a Christian and you're watching this, I hope this can help you understand that you do not have to be perfect to know Jesus. Jesus died for the imperfect. When he came on this earth, he was not hanging around with all the religious leaders. He was hanging around with the sinners, with the worst people of that time, according to society. He didn't come to hang out with all the perfect religious people. You do not have to be perfect in order to be loved by God, in order to receive the joy that you can get with God, in order to receive the peace that you can have from God. None of that requires perfection, and a Christian life is not being perfect. A Christian life is simply a life where you walk with God like he is a friend and he will guide you where you need to go. No, we do not live a life of intentional sin. No, we do not live a life of ignoring what God's calling us to do, but we simply do it by following God all throughout the way. That wraps up this video. Do not forget to like and subscribe. I really hope that this helped you out. If you have any questions, comments, please comment it down below, because I really just want to share the knowledge that I have with all of you, and I can only do that if I know what you're wondering. So please ask questions. Me and Sarah love you so much. Do not forget to subscribe, and we will see you on Tuesday. Bye.